G'day, welcome to This Is Riff, and today we're going to look at 50 Million Year Trip Downside Up by Kyuss. Such a beast of a song, this one, and I won't lie, it was a hell of a mission to tab this one out, and I wasn't exactly sure how to attack it for this lesson, but what I thought was the best way to do it was to divide the song into two parts. There's the awesome first half of the song and then the wicked jammy section at the end. Josh likes to have multiple guitar tracks going on, and so I'm going to look at all of them, except I won't focus on them in too much detail. And that's just because if I did, the video itself would probably go for 50 million years. So for this video, I'm probably going to attack it a little bit different than I normally do, just because there are so many riffs and layers, especially with the multiple tracks going on. Like the jammy section of the song, there's up to 4 guitar tracks going on at the same time, I think. So I'm just going to apologize in advance that I'm probably going to rush through a lot of the sections compared to my normal videos where I bang on forever. But I'll definitely show you each one just because I think it's cool for you to know. And it helps show you just how awesome this track is when you piece them all together. With a lot of my videos, please note that it's not 100% correct, it's more of a guide. And definitely with the tab that I put on the screen, the notational values or the rhythm is way off. It's more I just chunk it together to try and help it come across a bit clearer. And as always, I'm just playing through my Fender Jag, which is plugged straight into my Fender Champion 100 Solid. No pedals or anything, and just an overdrive to my liking. I may use another effect later on for the jammy section. So to play this beast of a song, you'll have to tune your guitar to C standard tuning, which goes like this. C, F, A sharp, D sharp, G, and C. But I'll probably just refer to standard tuning being E, A, D, G, B, and E. So this first riff will start at fret 12 on the A string, and you're going to be playing fret 12 24 times. So I just thought I'd make it easier and just put it all into one bar, and you got to play that 3 times through. So I hope that makes sense. And you're going to be doing a lot of alternate picking, so down, up, which helps you get that speed going. And once you've played it 24 times, you get to bar 2 there, and you're going to play 12 roughly 3 times. And then 5 opens. And you should just note there that each time it's a little bit different. Josh always puts his own little feel on that. So that may not be 100% correct, but play whatever feels best there for you. And then for round 2, you're just going to do the same thing, but it's a slide up to fret 12 this time. And I think Josh goes from fret 1 there, but it's up to you wherever you slide from, as long as you get the slide type sound in there. And likewise, you're going to play that 24 times before doing, I think this time it's 2 12s and then 6 zeros. But again, just go by what works best for you there. After that, you're going to slide to fret 15 on the A string. You can try and go from fret 1 if you want, but anywhere just with that slide will work. 24 of them before doing roughly 3 more 15s. And then 5 zeros. So you sort of start the alternate picking from that slide straight away. This time you then do 2 lots of the 15, so that third bar there. So that will be 15 played 16 times before doing 1 15, and then 17 will be played roughly 7 times also. And so that movement there is quite quick. And then you'll do that again to finish it off. So 15, 17, I think it was 6 times this time for the 17. And then it's 1 open. And then you'll hold fret 14 on the D with an open on the A. Which goes into the next section. Track 2, I'll just play through for you. This one's a bit more consistent with the ending, so you're going to do 4 12s and then 4 zeros, which makes it a little bit easier to play. So I'll just run through it now for you. So it goes something like that. So that one there you might find a bit easier to play just because the ending's always a bit more consistent. So you could sort of apply that to the first track if you want. I was a bit sloppy there with that riff there, but I feel like it's one of those riffs that you can afford to do it with, especially when you're just really hammering down on that power chord. And I actually played it for you 2 ways there. So I'm going to give you what one of the tracks does, what the second track does, and then actually one of the versions that he does live. So they're all going to revolve around fret 14 on the D and open on the A. And I just use my 3rd finger there because you're going to go to fret 12 on the D. And so the first track was doing something like this. Where the second one has a slightly different feel to it. And then for one of the live ones, Josh was doing something like this. Which sounds really cool. And that's a fun one to do just because it's doing that little pull-off bit there, which sounds sweet. And so you could sort of choose whichever way you please there because they all sound awesome. And then you're going to work your way up to fret 15 as a power chord on the A string. So 15 on the A, 17 on the D. I like to use my 3rd finger for that. And this is the bit where you can afford to be a little bit sloppy, just like really strumming hard. Go to town on it. It's going to do 24 lots of that 15. So that first bar there, you just play 3 times. And then roughly you're going to do one more 15 before going to 17 as a power chord, which is about 7 times there. And I'm just doing alternate strumming there to get that speed going. And when I do this fast strumming, I'm sort of blocking the top string by just slightly resting my 1st finger underneath it. And that allows me just to really go to town with not really hearing the top string there. You could try and focus strum here, just like that, but it sort of takes away the aggressiveness of that part. And then you'll just run through the 15 power chord again, but this time it's only 16 strums before going from the 15 to the 17 for about 5 strums, and then 2 opens buys you time to start the whole thing again. So yeah, from that little section there, sort of something like that. We then get to round 2 of the first riff, and both of these guitar tracks here are very similar because they base around that fret 12, except one's going to be doing the slide up to 15 and 17 again, where the other one just sort of plays around on the 12. So I'll just play through each track with the tab on the screen, and if you have any questions there, just give a shout, but hopefully you can work it out. Track 2 roughly goes something like this. The only real difference there is track 2 doesn't seem to do the slides. And I forgot to mention earlier here, you might get a bit lost with doing 1,012s over and over, so it could help just to count in 4s, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. That may help. this sweet little taste of the chorus is just a power chord on the top string, starting at fret 3 with a slide to fret 5. And that little bit there's a hammer on 3 to 5, down to 3 on the A. And then the second time is really similar, except the tail end's just a little bit different. And so that's a 3-5 hammer on, and then a 3 open as a pull off. And then you can opt to do that type of power chord with the pinky, just to spruce it up a bit. So 5, 7, and 7. Or you can just do a normal power chord there too. And you sustain that. I think there's another one, or possibly the same track does an open on the A as well. So yeah, that riff will come back into play a bit later on. Section here, that was just a rough idea of what I think Josh is doing, so please just know this is no way near 100% correct. As long as you're hitting those sort of chords, you should be pretty good. And as always, just play by the feel here, because what works for you will allow this to probably flow a bit easier. For the first bit, it would probably help using the correct fingers here, because it's good to try and let the notes ring out. So you'll be doing 2 opens on the A, then a 9 on the G, and a 7 on the D, which is just a power chord. And then at the same time, if you can hold fret 8 on the B string with your second finger, it will help you play the whole part a bit easier. I think he's roughly doing something like that. And then just start again. So just play around with those notes there with the song, and you should be all good. Bit here, I've given you a rough idea of the chord I think he's doing there. It sounds really nice either way, but you're just doing a power chord at fret 3 on the A string, and I feel like there's some open notes ringing out as well on the E and the B, and so you can sort of play the power chord a few times and then strum those bottom open strings and just pick off any of the notes within that chord, and you'll be all good. And then from there, you're going to actually slide to fret 6 on the A string. And this is a power chord shape again, with 8 being on the D string. So try and use your first finger for 6 and your third finger for 8 there. So from the power chord, it will go something like this. And then it goes into this riff. And so that starts at open on the A, 7/7 on the D, with a slide to A. So you could let the open A actually ring out while you're doing that bit, but I think Josh cuts it off on the album, definitely. But either way, sounds cool. That's a pull off on the D string there, so 5 open. And then you're going to go to this power chord, which is 3 on the A, 5 on the D, and then a 5 on the G. So it's just a power chord shape, but you're going to hit off the notes within that chord. With a slide to 6. So try and use your first finger there to slide to 6. And that has a real similar feel to it like the first part of this section. So it sounds something like that. So the first chorus is like that taste of it we did earlier, except each tail end of it's just a little bit different. So the first one does a hammer on 3 to 5 on the top string, down to 3 on the A. The second one is a hammer on 3 to 5 on the top string, back to 3 on the top string. The third one, I think one of the tracks does something like this. 3 to 5 is a hammer on the top string, and then 3 to 5 on the A string is a hammer on. You can definitely hear that in there. The fourth one is back to the 3-5 hammer on the top, down to 3 on the A. And then finally the last one does a 3 to 5 as a hammer on the top string, and then a 3-0 pull off on the top string. So that's all sort of in one move. For round 2 of the verse, it's just worth noting that there's another little guitar track that does something like this. And that's 3 times, and it sort of comes when this part takes place. So if you imagine it's right there, the other track is just hitting the same note as that fret 6 on the A. So yeah, you can hear that there. The second chorus is really similar to the first chorus, just the tail ends are always a little bit different, and so I'll quickly run through that for you. The first one, I think, does the 3 to 5 hammer on, back to 3. There's another guitar track that possibly does the 3 on the A string, so yeah, choose your destiny there. And then the second one does a 3-5 hammer on, then the 3 to the A. Third one, the 3-5, 3-5 hammer on, so on the E and the A. The fourth one, 3 to 5 is a hammer on, then a 3 on the top string. And then the last one, I think, lingers on the 3, so it's a... open to finish it, which buys you some time to get up to 5 as a power chord. On the live stuff, Josh does the 3 fingers for his power chord. But yeah, you can just do a normal power chord there if you want 5 and 7. So you let that ring out, and then you do another one. Just before the jam section, Josh is just mucking around with this sort of chord here, it sounds like. There's so many effects going on, it's a bit hard to decipher exactly what he's doing. But yeah, something like that is going on there. We're now going to look at part 2 of the song, where it takes an awesome change and the band just really jams it out. It's got one of my favourite solos that Josh does for sure. There's about 4 tracks going on roughly, so what I'll do is I'll play through each one individually, and then at the end of each of them I'll give you some ideas of what I'm doing. And this is just my interpretation of it, so I'm really open for any ideas. If you think I'm doing something wrong, I'd love to hear it. Or if you've got any other ideas there, what I might have missed, please leave a comment below as well. I've also just chucked on a bit of a chorus effect that's on my amp, just to spruce it up a little bit. So if you're wondering what that sound is, that's all it is. This first track here revolves around the chords A minor 7, C, which is then moved up the neck, and then there's this other real sweet chord as well, which I think Josh does going by the live versions, but I could be totally wrong there. And so what I was doing there is I'm just jamming around with them, and I'm picking off notes between the chords with some little pull-offs as well, and I like to use my pinky for them, but by all means you could use your third finger too. So that first A minor 7, it could possibly be just an A minor as well. You could do that too. I think he does that later in the song when it's just the guitar again by itself. But for the minute, I'm just doing an A minor 7. It seems to work really nice. So you're just strumming along. And then it goes to a C chord. And that move with the pull-offs is pretty much exactly the same as what you did with the A minor 7, with the 3-0 on the high E, and then there's a 3-1 on the B, open on the G, 2 on the D, and back to the G. So I'm just doing something sort of along those lines, while I'm letting all the other notes ring out while I'm doing that. And then you're going to slide that C chord shape up to fret 5. So just keep the same sort of shape going and let your fingers try and follow along with you. And so that's 5 on the A, 4 on the D, open on the G, 3 on the B, and open on the high E. Nice sounding chord. And so you give that a couple of strums, and then what you're going to try and do is introduce your pinky to fret 5 on the high E string, and then you'll take off your second finger on fret 4. So it then becomes 5 on the A, open on the G, and then a 3 on the B, and a 5 on the high E, which is like a power chord shape down the bottom there. And so yeah, that's how I'm using it with my pinky there. And you're trying to block the D string if you can, rather than having it open. It sounds nice there. It could probably work for the next move as well, but yeah, if you can try and block it, sounds really nice, that chord. And on a side note, that's an awesome chord just to muck around with. You can get some nice stuff out of that. And so you'll pretty much just play that once before sliding to fret 7 with the same shape. So yeah, I've just gone from 5 to 7. 7 on the A, and then a 5 and 7 on the bottom 2 strings. And then eventually you're going to do this cool move where it's just a slide up and back, so from 5 to 7, back to 5. Definitely on the live clips, Josh does something like that, and it sounds like he does that on the album version as well. So yeah, really nice just to muck around with. C chord, a few of those little fiddly pull-offs, slide up to fret 5 for a couple of strums, and then introduce your pinky and take off your second finger for a few strums before sliding to fret 7 with the same shape. A couple of strums, and then that cool move before starting in. the bit I very sloppily played then is that awesome section where it sort of fades out and then comes back in again, and it's just that chord section by itself. So it's around the 4:59 mark this happens. And it's very similar to the first time you were playing this sort of part, and I think it's mainly just Josh sort of strumming around with these chords with a few little pull-offs here and there. So you could strum the A minor 7, or definitely the A minor would work as well, with a few little pinky hits of fret 3 on the high E. Sounds really nice. Releasing it, little pull off to finish it, C chord, back to that fret 3 on the high E, release that as well, and then it's the same sort of move to finish it off, slide up to 5 with that chord there. For the second time around, it's pretty much the same, but I feel like Josh might strum an A sus there, just because I can hear the high B. And then he goes back to just the minor chord, I think. So it's sort of like something like that. Muck around with the A minor, and then C, and everything as usual. Yeah, so hopefully that gives you some idea of what to muck around with that bit. The second track's such a ripper that I thought, rather than me just trying to play the whole thing, I just put the tab up on the screen and I'll talk a bit about some little moves that might help you out. Every time's different, so I thought it was really cool just to tab it out and then show you as well just how much Josh just jams around and just plays by the feel. But if you are feeling game and you want to try this with the song, all those notes there should be pretty sweet, I think. It's just a matter about getting that timing right. So you're pretty much going to be working around this shape, 9, 10 and 12. And then that's going to move up to 12, 13 and 15, and then 14, 15, sometimes 17, and then he also does a big stretch up to 19 with a sort of pull off there to open while he's still, I think, holding the 14 and 15. So you're mucking around with those chords. Will sound really cool. Sometimes we go to 10 as well. Slide up. Does some moves like that. And when the wicked solo is going on, again, he's just jamming around with that shape, sliding it up and down to 12 and back to 9 before making his way up to 14. So yeah, just mucking around with that sort of stuff. I won't dive into that too much or it'll just go forever, but hopefully it helps out in some way. Something like that. And then when the solo kicks in, Josh is just mucking around with that chord shape there. Doing those sort of moves, jamming around, and then he'll make his way up as he normally does. And that move happens quite a bit there with the 19 to 15. The 19 is a pull off with an open, so that's a tricky move to do with your pinky. Around the 4:24 mark, he's still jamming around with this chord shape again. So yeah, play whatever you please there. And then this section here, he's just jamming around, moving it up and back before making his way up the neck. This part's a cool one just to muck around with. Something along those lines. Before fading back in again around the 5-10 mark. Before making its way back up. Doing that 19 pull-offs type move. And then finally it just fades out going. And then drifts off into the void. Around the 3:14 mark, there's a third track that's introduced, and I'm just going to play through it for you. Please keep in mind though, it's not with the track, and the feel's not right, but these notes are pretty sweet. Now I think it's the same track, but it does something like this around 3:37. It's possibly a fourth track, doing something similar to what I've tabbed there on the high E. Working its way up to 15 and 17. But it's a bit tricky to decipher exactly what's going on there as always. And then eventually that will finish up after playing the 17, 19, 17s on the high E with a 15. And that's possibly a delay, which sort of links up to the next track, which I think it's the same guitar track, but it possibly is a fourth one. But there's a bit of delay going on, and so I'll run you through some ideas for that. So on the screen there, around 4:07, Josh is just mucking around with these notes. So he just jams around. Then eventually bend at 15. So yeah, something like that's going on. And then just sort of fades off there. And I wanted to try and get that in one hit for you. So I wasn't obviously playing along with the song there, so the feel's completely out and the timing's out as well. But all those notes I think are pretty hunky-dory. Around 5:17, that track fades back in, and it's a bit hard to hear exactly what's going on, but it's something along these lines to start with. Before going into... something like that. That fades out, but it definitely keeps jamming along with some other notes getting thrown in there. Well, it almost killed me to make that video. I feel like I've aged about 50 years since the start of this, but I hope it helps you in some way. They're just some ideas, and I was pretty fast moving through certain sections, but yeah, as long as it helps in some way, that's the main thing. If you've got any questions, please leave a comment below, and I'll catch you soon. Bye.